Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm doing this little piece to camera after the video has been created because I didn't put an intro on it, so I'm doing it now. This morning I took Ozzy up to the woods at the back of where we live and we had a mooch round. Very entertaining mooch round because it transpired this morning it was foggy. And foggy in the woodland is excellent. We don't get it that often, and I just had to put the camera 16 to 35 on the camera and just carried the camera with a shoulder strap and the vlogging camera, of course, on its little this thing. The thing that I said that I never use, I did actually take this with me, and it was handy because I could wrap it round tree branches and just have the vlogging camera running. Anyway, the objective of today's little video is to sort of explain what you can do in woodlands when it's foggy. So let's get on with it then. Good morning and welcome. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, Saturday. I'm on my dog walk. I've brought him up to the hill at the back of the house here. Bit of a hike up the hill, but well worth it. I'm standing underneath this tree, getting dripped on quite a lot because, as you can probably see, it's foggy. And foggy means one thing: lack of distance and haziness, and generally changes. Everything looks different when it's foggy. Things that look perfectly normal when it's not foggy suddenly take on a completely different sort of appearance, and you get foreground and background very much different to each other. And I'm hoping to get some decent shots. I've come out without a tripod, it's completely handheld. I've only just got my shoulder strap, the vlogging camera and the tiny little Joby tripod gorilla pod thing, which I think I said in my tripod video I've never used, so this is it being used now. And it's absolutely silent up here apart from Ozzy, who's talking to me, and a chicken in the distance that's making chicken sort of clucking noises. And I just saw a fox wandering down the middle of the road, and he didn't seem to bat an eyelid that I was there. How things have changed in a week or so. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'm going to go and find some shots and I'll talk you through them as and when they happen. As I said earlier, it's absolutely silent up here, but what I'm standing in the middle of is an area that used to be very tall trees, and as I spin you slowly round, you can see the new growth. This was only cut down last year, so all of these small spikes sticking up off these stumps that remain are all new growth, less than a year, 18 months old at most. And in a couple of years' time this will be dense again. This wood's cropped, it's managed deliberately like this, but what they do is every so often they'll leave the more mature trees, like this one behind me here, standing, which under these foggy conditions absolutely makes stunning individual spooky, definitely spooky looking trees. I'm loving this up here. This is really spectacular. So what I'm going to do is I'm looking for some foreground. I can't really talk you through it so easily because obviously I'm hand holding the videoing camera, but I'm going to look for some foreground to actually frame a couple of these solitary trees. And the foreground probably will be these fronds or new growth sticking up because it's really quite stark, and these are almost certainly going to end up, I think, as black and white images because there isn't much colour here at all. Anyway, let's get on with it. Now what I'm seeing here is a really stark old tree sticking up at a very odd angle, but because of the nature of all of this felling, there's pieces of timber all over the place that haven't been collected or burnt, and they're making for some really quite special and interesting leading lines. So I think I've got quite a nice shot here. On 25th of a second f13, I think we'll go down to f11. Let's get it up slightly, and I think I'll set the ISO just up to 100 just to make sure I've got a decent shutter speed. There we go. That is a fifth of a second, sorry, 1/60th at f11, ISO 100. Let's have a look at that. Oh, and here he is, the dog himself. Yes, that's really quite pleasing. Let's get a bit lower and see if I can improve on that. Ozzy, come out of the frame. Yep, that will work nicely. Composition is 9/10 of the law when it comes to landscape, and I think that's looking quite nice. Anyway, we'll move on to another location. There's a lot here. I could spend all day here. I could definitely spend all day here. Right, okay. Someone's made a little path, lining it with pieces of timber. That makes an interesting shot in its own right. Well, I've perched you on the little gorilla pad tripod thing on top of an old fallen tree. Must have blown down in the gales that we had recently, because the cracks in it look fresh. It's a big old tree. I think it's a yew tree. No, it's not a yew tree. It's a birch, I think. Anyway, there is still a very interesting shot, and I'm going to frame it through the branches of the tree here. So I'll pick you up and I'll show you what I have in mind. Right. What I'm thinking is that if I can get that framed perfectly, and that probably is about the sort of angle I'm looking at, that distant tree in the fog with this tree in the foreground. So I'll have to put this down now and take the shot. Now, this is an interesting little framing. I've got this tree here. I've got this tree in front of me with this root coming towards my legs, and then in the distance on the other side I've got this beautiful moss covered, or at least the trunk is moss covered tree, and this is set amongst these rolling sort of, I think they're sort of a cycle track someone set up and used. It's quite heavily worn, and I've just seen two cyclists come along it, but I think this is a nice shot, especially if Ozzy gets out of the way. Ozzy, get out of the way. There's a good boy. Come here. Good boy, good boy. Yeah, that's nice. 1/25 f11, focused on the branch or the root that's coming towards me. 1/25 f11, ISO 100, and let's set compensation to +1, plus 0.5, because it's quite a contrasty sort of scene, this. 1/40th of a second. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, I think that's worked quite well. I shall fetch it over and let you have a look. I don't know if you'll be able to see this. That's the image. It's a bit dark here, but I'll be able to pull the detail back when I get home. Yes, this is the framing that I was going towards, and although this is a landscape orientation because it's the video camera, the portrait orientation, which Ozzy's right in the middle of, or just was of this tree and the one on the right here coming up, and this root coming down here with the 35 to 16mm lens on at 16. I was able to get all of this clip through the tree here across the top and then down and frame much as that. And as you can see over there, that second tree, the one a bit further away, it's got some beautiful moss on it, which I will attempt to show you. There we go, moss. And these are the hills and bumps that have been created in this little coppice piece of land here that people are riding their mountain bikes all over, or at least not at the moment, apart from the two I saw about 15 minutes ago. Other than that, I haven't seen anyone. But oh, there's that wonderful tree, and just behind it you can see the second trees virtually invisible in the fog. This is a special place to be when it's foggy, that's for sure. It just goes to show, only one lens, 16 to 35. I'm pleased I brought that one. I was in two minds about it, and I was actually in two minds about bringing a second lens as well, just putting it in my pocket. But the 16 to 35 has worked out really well, because there's a lot of very close foreground interest in all of this cut and fallen pieces of tree, like you can see all over the place around here. And there's also the distance of the trees in the fog. I think they make quite a nice combination if you get the framing right. And if I'd have brought a narrower field of view lens, 24 to 70 would have been more trouble. 16 to 35 is exactly what I need here. Anyway, I'm going to mooch around a bit more and see if I can get some more images. It's amazing though, because this area, I know it very, very well. As I've said before, I've lived here for over 30 years, but normally I'm used to walking through this area with trees as tall as all the ones that are, well, the ones that have been left standing. And it does change it dramatically, opens up completely new vistas. Anyway, I'll do some more mooching and see what else I find. Ah, now here is something interesting coming up. There's a Scots pine, and the Scots pine is going to get well framed by the branches on this tree. Yeah, that's quite a pleasing shot actually. Let's have a look at that. Right, I'm going to take two shots here because I'll have to focus stack this, because the branches in the foreground need to be sharp and the trees in the distance need to be sharp. And I'm at an 80th at f13 ISO 100, and I wouldn't get that because these branches are about 2 feet, 3 feet at most away from me, and the tree that I'm making the central sort of character, which is this Scots pine, I believe it's a Scots pine, is about maybe 150, maybe 200 feet away. So I don't have the depth of field to cover that in one shot, so I'll have to focus stack it. Anyway, ooh, this is lovely. Twisted tree trunks, bits of cut tree, everything, absolutely everything. Travelling light as well, just handheld camera on a strap. How simple can you get? Well, it's really quite difficult to know where to point the camera here because there's just so much. There's abstract shapes of trees leaning against other trees with no branches on other than just the central stalks of the trees or the trunk. There are trees on their own, there is all this new growth sticking up. And beside me here is a beautiful evergreen. This is a yew tree, which is quite unique. You don't get a lot of those up on the woods here. And there's a Scots pine in front of me, a couple of oak trees, and everywhere you walk you're just presented with new images because it's like ghosts coming out of the mist at you. They're spectacular to say the least. I'm enjoying this. I'm hoping this will turn out to be quite an interesting video for you guys. There's a lot of compositional challenges here because there's so much detail, but the mist makes such a difference because it just allows you to lose a lot of that detail. The hint of it's still there, but you can actually have the nearer object much more well defined because obviously it's closer, and it just makes for some really interesting shots. We shall see what we get. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, and please also subscribe so that you get notified when I upload new videos.